Kaffe? Mit Milch und Zucker?
All right, people. Was it a good lunch? Yeah? Okay. Glad two of you liked it. So I'm going to introduce the next speaker. The format this time is the same, so we might ask some of you to come on stage afterwards to do a little conversation around the topic. But before that, I'm going to introduce Nora Hindar from Norway. Give her a big round of applause. Nora is the CEO of Motherland Farmers in Rwanda, and she graduated at the University of Oslo in biology and also in the business school in what? Business? Economy. Wow. She's been working as a purchasing director in several aquaculture-related companies for more than a decade, although she's only 29. She got the opportunity to start up and build a coffee washing station called Motherland Farmers in Rwanda in 2011. And I think this year is the second season you're producing coffee. And she's very soon to move to Rwanda with her husband, so she doesn't have to commute back and forth to Norway all the time. So without further ado, Nora Hindar.
Thank you. Thank you to the committee for inviting me. It's really, really exciting to meet all of you and see what you're doing here. So as you hear, I'm very fresh in coffee. I'm going to start with introducing now. Tim has told a lot about me already, but I'm going to introduce to you where I come from and why I swapped to coffee, because that's one of the questions I get all the time. Why are you in coffee? So try to do that. Let's see if I'm doing the right things. Okay, first, for those who does not know where Rwanda is, you know it's in Africa, but it's in the heart of Africa. It's a very, very small country. It's the half size of Denmark, and Denmark is not impressively big, but it has a double amount of inhabitants as Denmark. So here you see we are located in the southwest of here in Butara, close to Butara. So this is the capital. So here we have the Democratic Republic of Congo. We have Uganda on top, Tanzania here, and Burundi there. So that's where we are located. Just some small facts about our company. We were registered 2 years ago as a Rwandese company. We have, right now, we only have Norwegian owners, four Norwegian owners. We provide jobs for about 120 people during the high season. We collect cherries from between 17 and 22,000 meters above sea level. And the cherries is mainly supplied from farms around us, in 1,200 farms, so you understand there's very small farms. Yes, and our aim is to use the best practice we know and that we get access to. Before we start, I just want to give you a question you can think about. How many working hours do you think is needed to produce 1 kilo of specialty coffee? I'm thinking of the harvesting, not the growing, but the harvesting, what is done on the washing station and what is done on the dry mill until it's green. How many working hours do you think is needed, hand working hours, per kilo coffee? So I will answer in minutes. I will answer this in the end of that presentation. Okay, this is outline of my presentation. So why coffee and why Rwanda? And our vision as a company, and in the end I will talk about quality and how we try to monitor quality on our washing station. Why coffee and why Rwanda? This is where I used to work, or the company I used to work for. As Tim said, I come from Aquafeed. I was purchasing director in a company called Biomar, the third largest in the world. We produced aquafeed for salmon fish mainly, also other species. I had a purchasing budget of $300 million per year. We produced 300,000 tons of fish feed. I was purchasing from all over the world commodities, a different kind, and I was coordinating all the logistics into the factories we had. I was following the stock exchange market on a daily basis, and I had a good salary. So that was my previous life. A few years ago, I heard about a project in Rwanda. They wanted to build a coffee washing station, they wanted to plant a coffee farm, and I heard about it. And I was very curious. And the first thing that hit me was that because they wanted to sell this project to like ordinary, like cooperate with an ordinary coffee shop, or not coffee shop, a coffee producer in Norway. And I didn't know anything about coffee, but my intuition said that no, this is not normal coffee, this is very high quality coffee. So I didn't know anything, but I decided to go and visit this country, Rwanda. I've never been in Africa actually, because I've been traveling a lot, but not in Africa. I've traveled everywhere else, but not in Africa due to hygiene. Hygiene is always a problem with commodities coming out of Africa. So I traveled to Rwanda in March 2012, and I fell totally in love with Rwanda, and I fell totally in love with the coffee industry. So the coffee industry as a commodity is very, very different from the rest of other commodities. That's more sharp elbows, much more, a totally different climate. Whereas coffee is more friendly, more welcoming, warmer, and it's people share information and share the knowledge. So I believe that these people, they are the most beautiful people in the world. And so we started. We decided to start a company, and as it turns out, the people that I was talking with, they didn't know anything about business, no nothing. So I ended up running the company. So here we started to build it in 3 years ago now. No, 2 years ago. Sorry, 2 years ago. So here you see that, carrying stoves. Everything is like done with handcraft. So this is early in the startup building, main building. So here they are capturing the water source. Here they are building the road. And these are the drying tables. And here are part of our team and some of the casual workers in front of our washing station. It's a very, very beautiful spot. So, okay, so what is our vision? What are we actually there for? Why do we want to work there? Our primary vision was we wanted to start up this because we wanted to reduce poverty, actually. That's the main. But how? I mean, you can send money down to Rwanda and reduce poverty or something. But we want to do it through sustainable business. We don't believe in just giving away things. So we wanted to start a business that could contribute to the to society where we are. And also the world's best coffee that came up in the beginning. That was actually what we started on. We wanted to make the world's best coffee. We are working on it. Just to take you through a little bit about the living standard in Rwanda, it's about 11 million people. Illiteracy is 28%. Electricity, 80% of the population have access to electricity. And maybe 30% has a kerosene lamp, meaning that if you are a small family, a poor family there, if 30% of the families has light after 7 o'clock in the evening and can actually do some work in the evening, and 20% have a cell phone. Rwanda is rated as, I think, the 10th poorest country in the world, and the area we're working is very poor. It's one of the poorest areas of Rwanda. So the farmers that we're working with, they have an average number of trees, 250 trees. Might not say anything to all of you, but 250 trees is not much. It's like you can have in a big backyard. And it's producing about 40 kilo of green coffee. So it's not much. Average yield per tree when you do nothing, and that's very usual in Rwanda, it's 1 kilo per tree. And annual income for these families are $60. And of course they have to do something more than this because they can't live on this. But as you understand, they don't have a very, very high standard of living. Okay, so what could we do for these farmers by still being sustainable and not giving aid? The first thing we started with, actually more than 2 years, nearly 3 years ago, we started to train the farmers in best practice farming. So they could increase their yield. 1 kilo is like, if you do nothing, you can very easily increase the yield to 10 kilo per tree, or the best one can have up towards 20 kilo per trees. So we invited 1,200 farmers to farmer training. We expected 1,000 to come. But actually, in the end, 1,700 ended up coming on the first. And then after we had ended the first course, my site manager, she asked, could we take another course? Because there are so many who also wanted to have training. So I asked, yeah, how many? Yeah, around 200. And when she was going to buy these farmer booklets, she wanted so much money. And I said, well, why so much? Yeah, actually, when they invited, 1,200 had come for the second course we put up. So we've been now training 2,900 farmers, and this efficiently affects like 29,000 people, because each family has approximately 10 family members. So by training them, they can increase their yield from 1 kilo per trees to 5, 10, whatever. The next project we started this season. We just started 2 months ago to distribute something we call worm tea. Worm tea works as a fertilizer, an organic fertilizer, and an organic pesticide. It's like red Californian worms. We have them in like a raised beds. We feed the worms with coffee pulps. We water it every day, and the liquid that comes off is blended with water, and we spray it directly on the coffee trees. It's a very, very potent fertilizer and pesticide, and it is very efficient to reduce leaf rust. So here you see some of the big beds. I have to thank Jakub Coffee, who has been contributing with finance to be able to build these. So every month the farmer comes to us and they borrow a spray from us, sprayer, and they spray on the trees. So here you see the typical Rwandese Anthesia that creates the potato taste in the coffee that we want to avoid. This pesticide, or when we spray this on the trees, the Anthesia doesn't like to come on those trees. So what we hope to see is that a decrease, or we haven't had a problem with this the 2 seasons we've had, but we want to, even the small problem that has been there, we want them to see them gone. Okay, so the next thing on our vision, world's best coffee. How on earth are we going to make the world's best coffee? So here's a normal distribution curve. I want to emphasize that it's impossible to make everything like high quality. In a washing station, you always have low and high quality. So it's like a normal distribution curve. But what we want to do, we want to push this so that the average is much higher, closer to 90 than closer to 85. So this is what we want to do. So by doing everything right, everything correct, I believe we can do that. And you know this guy? So how we are going to make the world's best coffee? Very early, or 2.5 years ago, somebody said, oh, you need to contact Nordic Approach. I didn't know anything about coffee, so I didn't know. So I got the name of Morten, and I wrote him an email, and I said, we are going to make the world's best coffee in Rwanda. Do you want to talk? And he wanted to talk, so that's good. So Nordic Approach, they are part owners. They are using all their knowledge into this project to help us making the world's best coffee. And talking about quality, I want to say that there's like three, depending on how you divide it, but there's three elements of quality. You need to produce the right kind of cherries. This is not cherries, but it's strawberries. But you need to produce the right quality and a high standard cherries. You cannot pull anything out of this coffee that is not produced on the farm. And then, of course, you have to preserve this quality, and you have to sort out. So you take away everything that does not add good or protect this quality. So, just a question. What you see here, if you made a jam of these strawberries, would you like it? Would you eat it? I don't think I would. I think this is the majority of coffee today is made like this, if you talk about volume. Not specialty coffee, but the majority of coffee. It's a mix of everything. And you can add in the green also. It's a mix of everything. You roast it hard, and the good taste is kind of covered. So this is what we want to avoid. So I'm going to take you now through the processes we are doing on our washing station, and describe a little bit. We start, of course, with the harvesting. We have a small farm, I forgot to mention that, but it's not like a big, huge volume. It's 1.5 hectare. It doesn't contribute so much to the volume, and it's 100% organic, but we still have a lot to do on the farming side. So first is the harvesting. In Rwanda, they handpick everything, and it's you go over the bush like 5 to 7 times during a season. And we train them to harvest only the red cherries. That's part of the farm training that we are taking them through. And yeah, I don't know if you can see this. Is it okay? Here you see in the middle, you see the red ripe cherries, that we kind of say this is the quality we want. We don't want the overripe, and we don't want the green. If the farmer, if they supply us the right quality, only these, we give them an additional price for the cherries. If they don't deliver, we have to sort it ourselves. So we take the job ourselves to sort it on the washing station. So no, I just have to point on this. The one that is going out, this is called sea triage. Just want to mention that since we're coming back to that later on. So the first thing we do, we float them. So here is both washing and floating, because the water we are using is very, very clean. So here the cherries are washed, and they are also floated. So everything that has an insect bite on it, they float up because they are lighter. So this is also sea triage. So this is taken away. I will just talk about water. It's we have very, very pure, clean water at our station. And we keep, that's one of the things with quality, we keep everything very, very clean. All the workers have to wash their hands before they come to work. All equipment, everything is cleaned every day. So that's to avoid any bacteria coming in and ruining our coffee. So after floating, they are sorted on raised bed. All the greens and all the overripe that is not taken out before, they will be sorted out there. So only the perfect cherries will pass. And the sea triage is then depulped on a separate area with a hand pulper, and it's dried on a separate area. We don't mix the sea and the other one. So every day is one lot. Sometimes we also divide every day in different lots. If we pick everything from one area and then get from another area, that might be 2-day lots that day. Other than that, we have separating every day. So keep it separate all through the whole process. And the sherries are processed while they are fresh. We don't let them lay. We can take sherries that was picked yesterday. They have to be fresh. So this is a depulper that we are using. It's called Penagos Eco Pulper. It's a very gentle machine that treats the parchment very gentle, doesn't crack up the shell around the bean. It uses little water. It washes away most of the mucilage, most of the sugar. So we are very pleased with this machine. After the machine is going into fermentation tanks, it's usually in Rwanda to have this concrete compound, the concrete boxes. But we have chosen to have these very small tanks so we can have a lot of separation and separate everything that we need. And it is very good, it's efficient. Of course it wears out quicker than the cement thing, but we're very pleased with this. So here you see again, everything that is floating is taken out. And this is called now defect. After the pulping, everything that's go up is called a defect. So it's a C defect is taken to the area I talked about before. So here you see it's fermented during the night in water. So here the water is taken off and it's going into the grading channel. Here you see the guy has shoes on, but of course the shoes are cleaned very thoroughly before he climbs up on this one. And the guy that's standing in there, he has bare feet, also washed. What you do in the grading channel is actually you push the parchment towards the water stream, and it's graded on gravity. So the heaviest one goes up in this end, and the lighter one they float with the water downstream. Oh, sorry. So here, and then we divide it in different parts. So this heavy one up here, that's the so-called A1. This one is the A2 and B that has already gone out. So I just want to emphasize this now because afterwards we're going to cut this. So we are going to compare this A1 with A2, B, and then we also have C triage and C defect on the table, just for you to see how this is the first sorting we are doing on like quality. And here, after the grading challenge, we take it up to the shade drying table, where some of the defects you can only see when the parchment is wet, so they are picked out at this stage. Some of the coffee, we have like, some of the coffee is dried in shade during the whole process. We have 9 tables capacity for drying under shade. This slows the process, of course, and reduces the capacity, but the endurance of this coffee and the taste profiles are sometimes much better. So these tables, I say, they are like 20 meters long and they are 2 meters wide, so there's big tables. So what's not, when it's not space on the shade, we dry them on raised beds in the sun. When I say in the sun, we don't just keep them in the sun because that will also ruin the coffee. It's usually Rwanda that you cover the parchment with shade nets between 11 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon when the sun is at the highest point. What we have learned is that the sun energy companies, they say that the energy is highest in Rwanda between 10 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And also when we investigate how the insects are moving, they hide 10 o'clock in the morning and come up again 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we figured that that is also better for the coffee. So we are covering it 10 o'clock and we're removing the cover at 3 o'clock, unless it's raining or something else. And during the open time, of course it's sorted, all the defects is picked out, and it's turned to make an even drying sequence. and is also we have like a certain program or for building up layers as they get drier. In the night they're covered with so-called Nylex, it's a plastic to avoid dew, and also when it's raining we cover it to protect it. And every day they measure the temperature, they measure the moisture level, and here you can see there's already here one lot here, two lot here, because every lot and every quality is kept separate, and they measure each and every one of them. So we want to do in the future, we also want to do looks, so we can even better measure when to cover according to the sun, when the sun is strong or not. And also we would like to go into measuring water activity. And everything is registered and kept, so it's full traceability. We know exactly every history of every lot. So just one small story about, there was one time we were cupping and we had this metallic taste on the coffee, and was wondering what happened this day, what happened to this lot. And I asked my site manager what happened that day, can you look at the comments? And she said that day there was one bag of sherries that was stolen, so the thief ran off, and they ran after, and everything was spilled out on the ground. They tried to wash it, but it was included into the day batch. And one bag of coffee into 2 tons of sherries was enough to make this taint. So, and we have many examples of this. Every time we say, what is wrong with it this day, we know exactly, you don't go back, oh, this happened that day. So it's very, you have to be very, very cautious, whatever you do on the washing stage. Everything goes into the coffee and makes some kind of taste. And here, after the drying, they are put into bags and for storage for 3-4 weeks before we take it to the dehulling. And this is a dehulling facility. We have this is a small one we have used now, and they are more keen on helping us on lot separation, because we want to keep every lot separated. And this dry mill, it's not ours, but we are outsourcing that. So this is the dehuller and the catador and destoner. And this is the screening facility. I don't know if you can see it, it seems to be kind of dark. And this is the gravity table that sort the coffee according to heaviness or weight. So each lot, as I explained before, is separated into A1, A2, B, and C triage and C defect. That's the first sorting. And then you get to the so this just to say this is high-end coffee, A1 and sometimes A2. These can be high-end. These are high-end coffee, can be, and we do lot separation all the way through on these. And then these are the smaller screen, A1 and A2. We are bulking them. We don't keep lot separation of these because this is regarded as lower qualities. And the same with B, they also bulked for low quality, but we have example of extremely good coffees on this in these also. And C triage and C defect is also bulked as a low grade. After the dehulling, there is more handpicking. Handpicking. That's and our aim is to have 0 defects. But of course, you can never say you have 0 because suddenly someone has overlooked 1. But our aim is definitely 0. And after handpicking and everything is sorted, they are put into grain pour bags and with a duty bag around. This is our site manager, José Dugane, and Emmanuel, quality manager, and this is Zachary, our assistant site manager. And of course, every lot is cupped and cupped again. So we have had some cupping in Rwanda, but most cupping this year has been done in Oslo with the Nordic approach team. So, and we separate, and sometimes when we find similar taste profile, then you can combine some of the lots to make a bigger batch, but also kept separate. Okay, some of the results the last 2 years. So we have only been going on for 2 years. The first year we produced about 24 tons of green, and this year we produced 75 tons of green. This was the aim also. We wanted to triple production. So this is some of the results. Last year, 48% of our coffee ended up as like high-end coffee. This year, and this is a very acceptable level, 48% is a very acceptable. This year, we had 65% of our coffee ended up as high-end coffee. And we are very pleased with that. And here are some of the cupping results. Like, this is a funny one. We just did the dehubbing of the B and A2 cups, and they were actually cupping 85, 86. They shouldn't, because it's a low grade, but this is really what we are working for, to actually improve and really make good coffee. Okay, so how many working minutes does it take to make 1 kilo of green? Well, at least in our place. Might be different in different places. Anyone want to guess? No. Okay. It's 258 minutes. 4.3 hours. So if anyone thinks that specialty coffee is expensive, they don't have Norwegian salaries, that's for sure. So this is, it's handcraft. It's a lot of work. And if you don't make specialty coffee, if you want to make an average coffee, you don't have to do all this work. It's nice for you to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nora. If you don't mind, please take a seat. And we would like this time to invite, of course, Morten on stage. And a person that I haven't met, that I hope is here, is Stephen Cornford from Mercanta. Yeah, perfect. Now for the hard part. So I just want to get the conversation started, and maybe Morten can comment some comments, but my obvious question to you, Nora, is what has been by far the biggest challenge of starting this project?
Good question. Maybe getting used to the culture and understand, how you can manage. I mean, managing in Norway is very different from managing in Africa, and you come in as like a white person, and how to have respect in a society like that. And you have the knowledge. You have a lot of knowledge, not in coffee, but in business. So having respect at the same time being the boss, I think that's, and understand the culture and understand how you can, I think that's what I like, challenges. So, yeah.
Great. If you can just grab the mics. And Morten, what about you? How has it been to work with Nora for?
To work with Nora or to work
on the project?
Do I have to leave now so I can talk freely?
No, first of all, I just think, I've been doing coffee for some years, like traveling, visiting producers and stuff for more than 10 years. And somehow felt that I've been involved, at least in part of the production in various places. But this was for me also the first time I really had the opportunity to, have like total impact on, because we basically designed it from scratch and figured out how to do coffee. And it makes you very humble. I think that's the thing about this, that you have been running around to farmers and, thought you had like answers and told them what to do. And then when you actually try to do it yourself, it's so much more complicated, and it's fantastic to have the opportunity, but it's also, you see how much it is behind it and how complex it is, and yeah, so I think for me that's been kind of the actually most important thing, besides being able to, of course, produce your own coffee. Yeah.
Stephen, are you working a lot in Rwanda or in that sort of part of Africa at all? Or?
We do work in Rwanda. But it's my colleague Raphael's department. I don't have much dealing with the sourcing of coffee.
So you have any like general experiences with Rwanda? I mean, personally, I'm not a huge fan of Rwandan coffees, but I've had some exceptional ones. But all random where they are from.
No, I think Rwandan coffee is brilliant. I think there's some really good quality there.
Yeah.
Can you speed up a bit?
Sorry.
Just take it closer.
Oh, no.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think if you can get roasters to work with the potato defect, then if they're open to having that dialogue with their customers, then there's some phenomenal coffee, really clean, sweet, delicious coffee in Rwanda.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience about this? Yeah, Taylor?
I was just really curious about when you said that originally you went in to do the farmer training. I was wondering like how you gathered the information to create that program and whether you brought any farming techniques from other countries in, or whether you kind of stuck with the Rwandan model.
The advantage of not knowing anything about coffee is that you have to ask everyone. So actually I had to find everything from coffee, and including farmer training. My background is biology and economy, but still I wasn't able to do that. So what we did, we actually rented Technoserve. Some of you might know them. They done farmer training in many East Africa countries. So they had the whole package. So actually we just adapted. In the beginning they did the training, so they adapt their kind of doing, and they have very good results with this. And gradually we took over. So we are trainers ourselves now, or my team. I'm not out there in the, but the team is doing it ourselves now. So that's.
Anyone else? Yeah. Sitting next to me.
Really cool project. You mentioned your goal was to reduce poverty through creating sustainable business. What kind of metrics are you using to measure that? I think it's really hard, but that statement resonates with me. I was just curious what kind of metrics, you know, like in 10 years' time, where are your farmers?
Yeah, because we're a very small company, I haven't put much resources into measuring. I should have done, and at least for us own sake, you know, it's nice to know. So I haven't put in exact measurements, but what I see, I already see that they have like, this is a very, very poor community. You can see that the women, instead of only having brown, yellow skirts, sometimes they have some color on the skirts, you know. You see there's more goats in the area. You see the children, they are not like the eyes, they are kind of more alive, not just I'm hungry, you know. So just from looking, you can see small development. This year the farmers, I think in whole of Rwanda, had a huge harvest. So we can't say that this was because of our farmer training. We can't. Over time we will probably see that they, but what we see is when we go and watch the farms, you see they apply mulching, they apply the knowledge, they are pruning the trees. You see that the trees are starting to get more fresh and alive, you know. So we don't have, at this stage, I would like to do it when I have capacity to do it, maybe when I move down, you know. So, but the aim is to do it without, like having a win-win. Like the worm tea thing we are doing, it's if they can increase the yield by using worm tea, of course the shares will be much more healthier, the shares we get back. So this is a win-win, and I believe we will have like soon we'll have the world's best coffee, right? No, but I really believe it's a win-win, and I want to find those opportunities. So I don't know if that answered your question.
And one question about how you plan measure or water activity in the beans.
Yeah, so far we have not done it, but I know the theory behind it, and I know, like logically, if you know the biology, you know that the water activity goes down when you do like drying on the shade. But I would like to have a more like scientific approach to it, and not just knowing the theory and knowing what's happening. So that's the goal, to be able to do this measurement and do it 100% scientifically. Yeah.
Hi, Nora.
Hi.
I've got a question that's possibly a two-part question. First of all, do you plan to have a model that includes farmer ownership on any level? You talk about reducing poverty and things like that, and I know it's a wholly Norwegian-owned company at the moment, but will it be something that people can buy into who farm the land? And secondly, with regard to reduction of poverty, there's also the question of gender and sustainability through gender equality. I know a lot of work that TechnoServe and others do is with regard to research into farming families and how to promote a more equal kind of basis for farming and farmers and producers. So are you planning to or have any models in place? I know that your site manager is a woman, which is great. But I just wanted to general comments on those two things.
Yeah. Regarding ownership, today all the farmers they own their own land. So we're buying from them, and that's also why we want to do farming ourselves, because we want to progress in farming. We want to know what's best. We want to, and also we see they copy us. If we do mulching, they do mulching. So that's the culture in this area we are in. So we want to be in farming. We want to develop the species and stuff like that. But since the model is helping the farmers, we don't want to owe everything, you know. Still they're strict on having control on the process, because otherwise we can't elevate these qualities to the level we want it to elevate. We want to increase, we want to do more projects like this, and then we want to keep that same model. Major contribution should be the farmers, so we can help the farmers. And the second question regarding gender, that's one of the things that we have been measuring in this farmer training. And if I can recall, I think it's very close to 50% women and male that is attending this training. So I think also Rwanda is special in that way, that you see there's more like gender equal in, I think it's Rwanda government is the government in the world that has the highest number of females in the government. So, and our company, of course, it's called Motherland Farmers, and I'm the CEO, and Jose is a site manager, so we are very feminine. So, okay.
Any other questions? I have one to the importer sitting there. Because Stephen, you mentioned that if we can deal with the potato defects as roasters, you can have some wonderful coffees, but how do you deal with it as importers? I mean, how tolerant are you to the potato defect? Will you completely exclude a lot just because of one cup, or have any ideas about that?
I mean, I don't think you can write out a coffee just having one potato defect. And we cut between 10 and 15 cups before making a decision on the approval side of things. And I think if there's 1 in 15, then I mean, I believe last year in this Cup of Excellence, they had potatoes coming through into the national stage. There's going to be one in a bag, I feel. And it's just a discussion that needs to go down the chain to the consumer.
Yeah, it's complicated. Like last year, there was like a very low ratio of potato. And last year, the Rwandan government, they also gave out like organic pesticides. So we were hoping that at least that was part of the reason why the ratio went down. But this year, again, it's not high, but it's more back to normal level. So, but that said, I think they are, at least now, the Rwandan government is somehow acknowledging the potato defect as an issue, which helps a lot, because like 3, 4, 5 years ago, they didn't really want to admit that it was like a serious problem. But now there are like programs, there are universities in the US that are involved. So, but anyway, so I think what we can do as importers and buyers is, first of all, like of course we have this project, but we're also working with a lot of other producers in Rwanda, and all of them, with no exception, is having like very strict programs and routines for doing selection, and especially like parchment sorting under shade. Like Nora said, there are some of these defects, you can't really see them when the parchment are dry. So you have to do a lot of sorting under shade, and then continue to sort on the drying tables, and then again, you know, like color sorting, hand sorting, as much as you can, because we know that at least that reduces the ratio. But it is actually, it's a challenge for us as well, because I mean, in my opinion at least, some of the coffees there are truly amazing, and I'm sure that if it wasn't for instance, the potato issue, the coffees generally would be, you know, it would, at least it should have deserved higher prices and would be more attractive. But still, I mean, you have the same problems in other countries. Like in Brazil, you have the Rio thing, you have phenolic things in Colombia that shows up like in cups now and then. And somehow we managed to deal with that, even as specialty buyers. But we still try to be strict, so when we see like too much potatoes, we discharge a lot. But the weird thing is that we can cut through like 60 cups of a coffee, not one potato, and then you get the coffee in, and the first thing that pops up on the first cup of the arrival sample is a potato. So, you know, it's like, it's somehow, it's still not like really manageable. But I think, like you say, it's important at least for us to have like a communication with our clients. So first of all, so they have the right of, you know, as long as they are aware of the issue. Of course, there's kind of a, if you have like one potato of you know, like 100 cups, it's not enough, in my opinion, to raise a claim against us. But if there are serious issues with the potato in a certain lot or whatever, we're just dealing with that. We can take the lot back, whatever. We're standing behind that, and we're just hoping it will. I think it will improve. Maybe we won't be able to completely get rid of the issue, but I'm sure with everything that goes on now, it's going to be reduced. So, but it is difficult, and we're actually also having now more a dialogue with our producers and exporters. So, you know, where do we draw the line? Where is their responsibility in terms of like too much potatoes? Where is our responsibility? And yeah, so it's about dialogue, I think. But you know, I think it is an issue, but we have seen like a lot of coffees now where it's like very few incidents, or a lot of times we never hear anything. We don't cup like one single potato cup from a lot of the lots we're doing. So. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for Nora. I saw in your picture that your production is so labor intensive, and when you look at the production in like Central America or South America, this look like so much labor. And then we know that the shipping from Rwanda to port is a long way. Do you see that the production of coffee in general in Rwanda will be a good business for the country? Or is the only way for coffee production to thrive in Rwanda is to go to the extreme good coffees?
Yeah, I think specialty coffee gives more money back to the farmers. So we do second payment, of course, and there's a lot of ordinary coffee, like semi-washed coffee in Rwanda. So where they do home process and they sell. It's labor intensive and the wages are very small, but down there still you get a lot for the money, not as here in this side of the world. But I think my dream is still to make Rwanda coffee the world's best coffee. If that's possible, if that's kind of stated, like if the washing station around us start to copy us, if more people are like focused on making fully washed coffee and so on, I think it's possible. And that would be elevating the, like Morten say, the price of Rwanda's coffee, and that would help the country. Coffee is the most important export commodity they have. It's a very poor country. They don't have like gold and stuff like diamonds like Congo have. So that's the most important export article they have. So, but it is expensive, and if we start to have salaries like in some other coffee producing countries, then they will have a problem. Yeah.
I also want to add that what they call the specialty coffee, which is actually just fully washed coffees in Rwanda, they've only had that for less than 15 years. I think they started about 2002 to actually do like proper washing stations, and before that, like Nora said, the coffee was like home processed and sold as ordinary coffee at a very, very low differential, like often at the minus towards New York City. So already, like just like the last 13 years, it's been like a huge change, and it created a lot of income for many families already. And now there are areas, like in our area, for instance, there are several good producers that are attractive in the specialty market, and just by that, you know, there is a lot more competition. So the general prices of cherries, for instance, in our area, can be like 30, 40, 50, 60% higher than in other areas, just because there are more presence of washing stations there. So that by itself, the competition, when there are several producers doing kind of quality coffees, it somehow raises the minimum for the farmers.
You mentioned leaf rust, Nora. What kind of varieties do you grow now? And are you planting resistant varieties? And are you also experimenting with the sort of geishas and stuff?
We have this Bourbon 137, is it? 139? 139. That's the species. We only have this one. And we have, since we are very young, we planted this 3.5 years ago. And we haven't done much more on planting. We plan to do it, and we would like to experiment with different species. When it comes to leaf rust, it's not a huge problem in Africa, as it's some places in South America. But we had in a period that our farm was not well kept. We had problem on our own farm, so we saw it on many of the trees. And then we started to use this worm tea because we were told that this is good for leaf rust, and it disappeared within a month, 2 months, it was gone. It's just, so anyone here, if you are producing coffee, try worm tea. It's extremely efficient. You see the trees is starting to get dark green and a lot of leaves straight away. And as you know, it's the kind of the power from the leaves that goes into the sherries and create the sherries. So, you have any comments to this?
No, not really. I mean, we don't have, like you say, we don't have the same ratio of leaf rust in Rwanda as you have, for instance, in Central America and South America. But another thing you asked me earlier, how it is to work with Nora as well. I think the interesting thing working with Nora, for instance, is that she somehow is coming from a non-coffee background. She have like a completely different, you know, like, I don't know what to call it, more scientific or technical, maybe, aspect to it. So she's like willing to try out so many things and have different theories behind what's going on than, you know, what we normally have in the in the coffee industry, which I think is great. So, for instance, this is one of the things, and then there's others. Yeah.
Any more questions? Yeah, just one more.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. In Africa, some countries around you are in political trouble. I was wondering how you could describe the political environment where you are in Rwanda. And the second question is, you seem to be sorting a lot and putting away a lot of the bad cherries. I was wondering, out of the total amount, or out of the amount you usually buy from a farmer, how much do you put away and how much is left of it at the end of the process to get to that top quality you're looking for?
Yeah, how much I actually put away. I start with the last question. How much we put away? I have that in my Excel sheets, but in this year we had like top quality was 65% of everything, and that's very, very high. And that, I mean, that's not just that's A1 15 plus, screen 15 plus. So 65% is very, very high. The level of triage, the lower grades, I'm not sure how much. I could just estimate 10% maybe, 10%. I'm not sure. I need to go to my notes, but we don't throw away anything. Everything in the pulps is used for the worm tea. The triage is sold in a different market, and it's actually now this year it was sold to someone who wanted to use this triage and defects to enhance their own ordinary coffee. So that was interesting. Yeah. So that's the quality thing. You want to add something on this?
Yeah, I mean, this is one thing for us that is challenging when you try to, like I said, do all the sorting and grading. And so ideally, you should have, the starting point should be just like perfect cherries, because then the ratio would be like very high. I mean, considering the more dense coffees and the higher qualities. And then we have tried out different things in terms of incentivizing farmers, for instance, to only come and deliver the fully ripe, the perfect cherries, and then pay them a really good premium for that. But it doesn't really work that way either. So it's somehow, or let's say you want to be very strict on that, maybe it reduces your volumes to half. So it depends on how you want to, what kind of strategy you have for purchasing the cherries in the first place. So like this year we saw that we actually have to buy, let's say, more average quality on cherries, and then do all the sorting ourselves. So of course then you will, for those batches, you will have like a lower ratio of the higher grades, and so, but that's something that you have to take into account, basically. But this is one of the challenges. Like I said earlier, it makes you very humble, because there are so many challenges like this. Even if you just want to do, the perfect cherries, the perfect sorting, whatever. So what are you going to do with the rest? And like now we still have like perfectly good coffees that they're good, they're average good. They are like the bees and everything that are cupping actually on the same level as many other producers, A1s, but the way we have, I mean, we're only 2 years old, so we don't have like a huge market for all our products yet. So this is actually a challenge, yes.
And the last, Nora, on the politics, can you comment?
The politics, many of you know that there was a genocide there in Rwanda 21 years ago, and killed about 1 million people in 100 days. It's a world record in killing. So after this, the situation in Rwanda has been, of course, it took some years, but it's been stable for many years. And it's been on a very good government, and they are, and my impression is that they are working for good causes. They want to reduce poverty, they want to reduce illiteracy, they have a goal of having 70% of Rwanda having electricity within 2017. So the government right now is very, very good, and it's stable, and it hasn't been any kind of difficulties as you've seen in Burundi. Burundi have the same kind of people living there, but they have been struggling this last year. But Rwanda is peaceful. And a lot of people from Burundi is traveling to Rwanda now and stay in Rwanda because they want to avoid the war in Burundi. So, but I feel safe there. I can go there out in the evening, in the middle of the night. I'm not afraid. It's very, not out in the bush. Then I would be a bit more careful. But in the cities, it's safe.
All right, thank you very much to all three of you. We have to finish.